Okay, welcome to the alpha blending texture creation tutorial. This isn't for alpha blending itself. This is for creating a texture for alpha blending or even creating custom textures. This is only going to cover the alpha textures. This is not going to cover the metal, or the masking or the decals. Those are a little bit simpler. Um, this is going to be kind of quick, and if you can't really follow along, I suggest you just kind of watch over how I'm viewing things. First, you need to find an image. It can be within the regular Call of Duty itself, or it can be in off Google or whatever it is. Let's just go ahead and let's find some good textures. We can use any of these in here. There's muddy walls and stuff. So let's go ahead and use this muddy wall JPEG right here. We're going to go ahead and open it up. In order to do this properly, you're going to need to get the DDS plugin from NVIDIA. It's free. You just install it. But if Adobe Photoshop, you might have to purchase it, or you could probably use a trial version. So this is our image we're going to create an alpha blending texture with. Once we have this, we need to go ahead and change the image size to multiples of 2. For instance, they need to be 2, 4, 8, 16, things of that nature. For instance, like 128, they need to be by 128. As long as you keep them uniform, you shouldn't have a problem. 256, 256, or you can do 128, 256. Keep them within these dimensions because that's how it's going to end up working best. So for this one, let's go ahead and create 512 by 512. Now these are pixels. These are not units. So we're going to make it 512 by 512, just like so. The next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to save it as. And where we're going to save it to is there's two different places you can. In your Call of Duty, you can save it in your main. For regular Call of Duty, you create a textures folder in here, or we do it for the UO. I already have a textures folder in here, and there's one right here, sand fleas. So inside here, I have more folders. This is what shows up in your editor, all these little things here, all these folders. So this is going to be an alpha, so I'm going to place it in my alpha. And then we're going to select DDS. That's how it's going to be saved. And how we're going to name it is going to determine the type of shader it's going to be using. Shaders are how the texture interacts in the environment, whether it's dirt, snow, ice, this, that, or the other. So for this one, we're just going to name it, shall we say, it's dirt, so we're going to name it dirt we can name it mud wall, just like that. Dirt at mud wall DDS. The @ symbol is necessary. This is being read by the editor, and the editor parses out the different types of shaders, and this @ symbol is a denotion of, or actually a separator, letting it know that it's a dirt shader. It's a little hard to explain. Okay, so we're going to save it here as Mudwall DDS. Next thing comes up is the NVIDIA Alpha, or shall I say NVIDIA Texture Manager here. There's different settings you can use in here, although the only ones you're going to be needing is just the first one, DXT1, RGB, no alpha. You need to generate bitmaps, and that's it. Go ahead and save it. Now our texture is saved, and we should be ready to go ahead and create the actual shader for it. So what I'm going to be doing now is going into my Call of Duty, my UO folder, and you need to create a folder called scripts. And inside scripts is where my shaders are going to go. You name your shader after your map name, and inside here is where we're going to actually tell it what type of shaders and where it's going to load and how it's going to be used. The first portion in this example is a sky that I created, and here's my alphas right through here. So we're going to create another alpha texture. I'm just going to copy the above, and in here is, if you read these comments, is pretty self-explanatory. The first line here is the name of the texture as it will show up in Radiant. It can mean anything you want. This is a command. It's just saying it's the textures, sand fleas. It's going to be in the folder sand fleas, and it's not going to be a road. It's going to be in the alpha folder because that's where we put it, and how we want the name to appear in the editor. So it can be mudwall_alpha. This has nothing to do right now with the actual texture. This is just renaming it or creating another instance of this texture, and it'll show up in the sand fleas folder alpha mudwall in the editor. Okay. Now here's the surface params. Remember I was telling you that they're shader types. There's dirt, sand, snow, ice, water, plaster, wood. There's about 30 of them. But this is going to be dirt. There's really not much more you need to change in here, except for this part right here, the actual DDS file used for the graphic. Now we placed it in the alpha, and it was dirt at mudwall. And the next line here needs to be the same as this line here. These two need to match. Let's see. Need to fix that. Okay. And that's it. I just created the shader for it. Let's go ahead and save it. You'll have these as an example to look through to see how these work. Go ahead and close those out. Go ahead and close that out. And now what we're going to do is open up our editor and take a look. Remember, I put the actual DDS file in the alpha, so it'll come up normal. See, it says dirt at mudwall. Then the next one has a white border on it because this is the alpha we just created through the shader. Alpha mudwall. Remember, we created it called mudwall alpha. This is the instance of it. Now it's an alpha texture. To prove it, let's go ahead and draw something out here. Do simple terrain mesh, and let's go ahead and alpha blend it. To prove to you, it actually works. See, just like so. That's how it works. And you can also take images from Call of Duty itself that are not alphas and create alphas with them. So I'm going to go ahead and include the example shader file. Remember, you need to name the shader the same as your map name. It doesn't have to be named the same, but I recommend to do it because that way you can keep track of it. And when you create your textures folder inside of that, the textures folder is just another reference or an add-on to the actual game. So inside there, you need to create another folder and name it after your map. Because this way, if you keep all your paths the same, it's easier to manage when you're trying to point to directories for creating other instances of alpha shaders, like I was just doing. So effective management of your folders and naming conventions go a long way.